Okay, take one of trying out this infant soothing webinar. So I am going to talk to you today about how to soothe your baby, and I have my guest star. Am I allowed to call her my goddaughter? This is my goddaughter, Angel. Say hi. So Angel has not slept much today. She's taken short little naps, and she's really hard to get to sleep once she's kind of had disturbed naps or really small naps. She gets overstimulated, and when you start to soothe her and she should be falling asleep, instead she gets these wide eyes and just stares off, and she won't fall asleep. And if you don't actually manage to get her to sleep, she starts to get really cranky, and pretty much nothing that you can do makes her happy. She's kind of heading into that phase now. She's kind of entertained by stuff though, and she's not in a bad mood if she's being held and interesting things are happening. So she's happy to let me explain a little bit before I help her get to sleep and show you how I do that. So the first thing is, if you're kind of confused about why your baby is fussy, and you know, we all know the basic elements of they need to be fed, they need to be able to sleep, and maybe they just woke up from a 15-20 minute nap, but they've got a clean diaper, etc., and you just don't know why they're just super fussy. You know they haven't had enough sleep, but they won't go back to sleep. So if they have just woken up, then you probably need a gap. And obviously breastfeeding is a really good pacifier to help them get to sleep. But if you're in a distracting, chaotic environment, or there's a lot going on, then they may need a lot more help than just breastfeeding and being held and being rocked and that sort of thing. The first thing that you want to do is make sure that you're calm. Babies are stress detectors. They have programs and apps and computers and ways that just even your phone can detect what your blood pressure is and your pulse and your heart rate. They can detect all sorts of things about you that indicate your stress level, and they can help you meditate and all of that. If a phone can do that, a baby who has just recently lived inside of another human being is absolutely aware of your stress level and your heart rate and your pulse and your energy. So if you're holding a baby and everything's going pretty well, but they're not quite comfortable and you're not sure if you need to hand them back to mom or what's going on, and they start to squirm, and you start to freak out, then they're probably going to fuss. So the first thing that you want to do is just find your calm, and even if they kind of fuss a bit or they kind of howl for a moment from maybe some discomfort in their gut or something, you just want to be that rock center where you're happy and calm, and you can help them find that center and be happy and calm. So she's getting a little fussy. So I want to make sure that I'm very calm and that she knows that the world is a safe place, and my heart rate is slow and my breathing is slow. My speech doesn't get too, she's probably getting a little fussy because I'm talking quickly. Yeah. So she's getting overtired. She's already overtired, but she's okay with it at the moment. So you want to be aware of your baby's idle cues, and when you know that they're pretty well taken care of and they're pretty happy and giggling, and then they kind of fuss for a minute. There's a lot of little things. I'm sure that they have sore muscles from while they're growing. They have bowel discomfort. I mean, think of the times that you're just doing something and then all of a sudden you feel some weird, grumbly or discomfort, in your gut, and then you know what it is and you let it pass, but they don't know what those feelings are. So they cry out for a moment and then it's gone. So they're fine. So you want to stay calm through those, and give them every chance to calm back down and be fine. If you have a baby that doesn't sleep very much, they fall into one of two categories. Either you've got a stellar, awesome baby who just is high energy, does all the things, is happy, giggling, etc., up playing, and they just end up not sleeping a lot or needing a lot of sleep, and that's great. Or you have a baby who clearly needs sleep and is not sleeping. So if you have that kind of baby and they're fussy, quite frequently, and you're looking at them and begging them like, you need sleep, and please sleep, you're having a hard time, then you definitely want to try to use some of these techniques to help them get into sleep. So I like to explain a baby system as kind of an electrical system, and she's calm now because she's chewing on my finger. Yeah. That solves everything. So I explain it as kind of an electrical system. They have all of these nerves that are not myelinated. So that's kind of like the electrical cord coming from your wall out to your computer that doesn't have any rubber coating on it. So any of the electrical impulses sent, if say a cord to your lamp is crossing it when the electrical cord, when the electricity comes through and goes to your laptop, it touches the electrical cord from your lamp and turns your lamp on as well, because there's no rubber insulating those. So that's what the nerves inside of a baby's body kind of look like. When a pulse comes from the brain to her fingers, it goes through her entire arm and every muscle flexes, and then that's why, you know, hands grip and face, you know, come in, and they do all of the gripping at the face, and all of that is because there's just one big impulse going through all of these undifferentiated nerves. And it can get quite stormy in there. So when a baby's really tired, it's kind of just like this electrical storm going off. One thing that I've seen with a lot of infants that Angel does in particular as well is when you start to get her down and she starts to fall asleep, sometimes she's in a storming place where as that starts to ebb and starts to calm down, it will flare again. So as soon as you actually see that drooping, as soon as you actually see, just suddenly she'll be upset. But that calms again as well. And sometimes I had a little boy that would do that really strongly, and he did it about 5 times every single time you were trying to rock him to sleep. You would just finally think he was falling asleep, his eyes were drooping, and then he would just be upset and wide awake. Out of nowhere, nothing happened. He just powers on when he's powering down, like a computer that's starting to power down, and then it just boots itself back up. So if that's happening, you just have to stick with it. It doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. It means that their system can't power down, but it will. You just need to continue to give it the right stimulation to be able to power itself down. And I'm going to show you what that means. So if you want to kind of understand this electrical storm kind of concept a little bit better, I've nannied for hundreds of families, and so often there's this typical experience where it's bedtime and clearly the kids are exhausted, and so you have, you know, mom and dad trying to get them in the bathtub and all of that, and they're grumpy and cranky and all of that, and the next thing you know, they are naked, running wild through the house, laughing and screaming and having the best time ever. They are completely manic. They're just crazy demons. That's an overtired system. That's the electrical storm when they get older. For now, the electrical storm looks like fussy baby. And she doesn't know how to calm herself down because she's too tired. You know, an adult who just ends up staying up all night writing when they're completely exhausted, etc., is still kind of suffering from that. So we'll go ahead and start to get Aurora ready for her wind down. Yeah, she's having a good time though. And let's see if there's anything I forgot to cover. Oh my goodness. So first we're gonna check and make sure, like, she has breastfed recently. She's been breastfeeding off and on for the past couple of hours. I think boobs are pretty tapped out. Yeah. Making sure that I'm calm. She's not, you know, upset or going to be really upset because I'm just completely stressed out and I just need her to sleep. You know, that doesn't really get babies to sleep very easily. Next thing, we're gonna put her in a tight swaddle. So if you are very uncomfortable with the idea of a swaddle, there are a few things that I'd like to explain to you and remind you, which is she just recently was living inside of a human body. She was living inside of a womb where she couldn't move and she was all clamped up. That just suddenly disappeared, and now she has these limbs that flail and she's just a ball of chaos. That's not the best feeling, especially when you're tired. See, it doesn't feel good. Anytime I put her in a swaddle, and most babies, they will suddenly like try to move and figure out that they can't move, and they freak out a little bit, and then they just relax. So if at first when you're, you know, swaddling baby and they're fighting it, just keep going, swaddle them up, give them something to pacify, and then, what is it? Swaddle them up, pacify, and then we're gonna rock, hold them close, and then we're gonna cover her vision so that she's not getting visual stimulation, which is overstimulating and keeping her, she can't close her eyes. And then I'm gonna show you a technique to help her close her eyes. And then she should be out. So we're gonna move on to swaddling and see what we can do for this fussy one. Yeah, see, that was perfect timing to say, I'm ready. Can you tell him? You're gonna eat your fist. That's a good idea. Can you tell him? All right, here we go. All right, so let me show you how to swaddle if you don't know how to swaddle. And Miss Angel is still very ready for a good sleep, and she's still really wound up and having a hard time keeping herself calm. So we are gonna go ahead and help her put herself out of her misery and sleep. So I love to use this piece of sheet. It's half of a sheet and it's a stretchy material. It stretches in both directions, all directions, and I just have it folded in half so it's a rectangular shape. And I use this the most for swaddling her because it turns her into a big bundle, which makes her feel very like held and secure, and it makes me feel better because it makes her into a bigger mass. So let me get back where you can see this. So if you lay this out, I'm going to take it and make it diagonal. So here's the corner up at the top, and I'm gonna lay her right here with her head right here, so she's kind of got this triangular hat on. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to take that away. Oh no. So the first thing you want to do is get it situated behind her and move her up a little bit. Move up a little bit more. Okay. So this first triangle is going to, and so there's this whole blanket for me. And if you're doing it with a square, then you just have, you know, a square. But I've got this long rectangle because, like I said, it turns her into a bigger bundle. So I'm going to take the first corner, and I'm going to tuck her arm down, and she's going to wonder what's happening. And I'm just going to wrap you up. I'm going to wrap you up really snug. And like I said, this is very stretchy, so I'm pulling it pretty snug. You can hold that one for now. And I'm going to pull it, and close it up underneath the bar. So now she's laying on that corner and it's not going anywhere. She's really secure. Her little arm is tucked in there and her other little arm is in her mouth. Can I have that? Can I borrow it? Yeah. Or I'll trade you. You want a pacifier? Can I trade you the pacifier? Get the hair off of it for you? That's good. She's not very good at pacifiers yet. She kind of sucks on them and spits them out without really knowing what she's doing. So we're probably going to go with a breastfeed. Yeah, but at least it's something more interesting. While I take her poor little fist away. So I'm going to take the other one. I'm pulling really tightly. I want her to be in there snug. Yeah, and she's going to protest a little bit. I know. So I pin that down and then I start folding this part over. I know. I gotcha. I hear you. I know. Okay. So, hey. Oh, goodness. Oh, my goodness. So, she's probably going to breastfeed instead of pacify her to sleep. Oh my goodness. Did you spit that out? Did you spit that out? Yeah. So she really doesn't mind the swaddle so much. But she is looking for kind of something to pacify with. And clearly it's not the pacifier that she wants. So we're going to pass her to Mama. Yeah. It takes, you know, a few seconds to kind of get used to being confined, but it really does help with neurology. It helps her brain stop sending all of those crazy signals because it's sending signals and they're coming back and forth. She sends a signal and then, you know, her arm goes out and it hits a bunch of stimulation and sends a bunch of signals back, and she's just got 4 limbs going and her head, and she's tasting things with her mouth, and she's just got all of this input, all of this output, and she can't really navigate it. So what I'm doing now, and her mama just taught me this one. We all have things to learn. As you hold this with 2 fingers and then use a middle finger to tap. And that kind of gives her something interesting to focus on. and she's getting used to it. So the next thing that we're gonna do now that we have her calmed down in a swaddle, no matter how calm she gets, she's gonna keep staring at me with these huge overtired eyes, and she's gonna keep fussing. So what we do, and one thing that you can do if you're not really sure how to like hold on, or you want to make an easy transfer, oh my goodness, you can put them in a car seat and then cover up the visual, and that trick only works once. If you do that and then they wake up, you're done. So after that, you got to find a new way. But this is a really good time. I'm not a proponent of covering up breastfeeding. I'm a proponent of normalizing breastfeeding. I'll pass her off to mommy. But I am a fan of breastfeeding covers or that kind of idea because it sometimes is the best thing for baby. Sometimes, like, I had an experience where we were out at a restaurant with some friends, and they had a 4-month-old son, and he was being passed around and he was having a good time, but he was just really fussy. And when I held him and tried to look at him, he couldn't meet my eyes or make eye contact. His eyes were just darting all over the place, and he was completely overstimulated. And his mother was, absolutely, breastfeed out in the public for everyone to see, and totally fine with that. But he couldn't calm down, and he couldn't cut out the stimulation. So when he got too tired and too cranky, I did suggest to her that she cover him up for him. And as soon as she did, and she covered him up, and she kind of would peek under there and talk to him. So she was breastfeeding with just something draped over her like this, and she would, go in there and just talk to him. So it was just her and him. She finally did, he finally did calm down and fall asleep. So you can hear that she's calmed down. She's got, breastfeeding going, and she's in her swaddle, and she's got mama rocking with her, and she's got a cover over her face now. So that will get her to sleep, and it's not a perfect art, but it is what she needs, and it is what will help her shut down that system. And that system, the nature of the system is that it's going to keep revving up. So it feels to an adult, it feels like communication, that they're clearly, trying to tell you that they're upset or that sort of thing. When in reality, it really is just a system that's malfunctioning and that cannot shut itself down. So it becomes a really horrible system if you've ever just been like so wired that you can't sleep, and then you try to work and do things and you're not being able to do it because you get so agitated. It's that sort of situation that they get into. So cat saga is going on behind me. So you really do want to do this check and make sure that they don't have a dirty diaper, that there isn't anything uncomfortable. Always check toes for what they call hair tourniquet, especially if they've been in footy pajamas for a long time. They can get a hair wrapped around, and if you've got a wailing infant, check their toes, just make sure, because it can get around there and then swell up with poor circulation, and they could end up in the hospital with the doctor needing to cut. It can get really bad. So that's one hidden way of the babies can be really in a lot of pain and be trying to communicate that, and it's one thing to check for. But when you do basic checks, you make sure that you know that they're fed and that they do need sleep. She's falling asleep now. So once you get them to sleep, you put them in the swaddle, and you talk to them through it, and let them know that that they're uncomfortable, but they'll relax in a minute. I don't recommend starting swaddling at about 6 months or anything like that if they're not used to swaddling. It's been 6 months since they were tightly held in a womb. That's not a recognizable comfort for them. So you do want to do this for, I'd say 0 to 5 months, etc., but not 6 months, that sort of range and beyond if they're not used to swaddling. You can be easily swaddling a 6-month-old if it's their routine and it's something that they're used to. And I do think that can be very healthy. It definitely is different depending on the child and depending on the situation, whether they're being left in a crib or they're co-sleeping. Those kinds of things all come into play. But this is specifically about, kind of a 0 to 4 to 6 months infant who can't calm down and soothe themselves. So the other trick that I wanted to tell you is that if you've got kind of everything going, and you've got that cover, and when you check in and you look, they're still wide-eyed. My recommendation is to try this trick where you stroke the forehead very gently down the nose. It kind of stimulates that reflex when something comes near your face to close your eyes. And so it will have them kind of closing their eyes and opening and closing their eyes and then opening, but eventually that closing will feel better than the opening, and they'll begin to close their eyes and leave their eyes closed. So that is a really good way to make sure, test video, that's a really good way to make sure to help them, allow their eyes to close. And then you're going to want to keep them in that situation where they're really, well bundled and well snuggled and pacified, etc. And then, make sure that they're solidly asleep before you try to transfer. Because as soon as you transfer and you mess that up, you're going to have a doubly oversensitized baby. They're going to be completely overstimulated, wide awake, and you're going to have to do some other things with them, let them chill out for a little while, and then start the whole process over again. It's still something that you can do, but it kind of messes with their neurology more and more the more that, the dog barks and wakes them up, or somebody comes in and wakes them up, etc. It's not a perfect world, but that is kind of the consequence of what happens with that neurology when they are completely overstimulated, finally falling asleep, and then they're just wired again. You're not going to get them right back to sleep. So those are my recommendations. That's my baby whispering techniques. I've helped many babies in many situations finally find that peace and calmness, and frequently against parents' protests, no, they don't like swaddling, just let me try. Just give me 5 minutes. They're already wailing and they're already miserable and upset, and you're already very stressed out. So let me try for 5 minutes and, just watch. And I almost always, can get them to sleep. So the only thing I don't have is the breastfeeding to do for them, which I can hand them to you, as soon as they're ready, and they should fall asleep. So I think she's pretty well out, and that's my How to Soothe a Baby tutorial. Thanks for watching.